Thank you, madam. Uh, the National Atomic Energy Amendment Bill 2015 is a small bill, and it seems innocuous enough, but is actually very serious and needs a lot of thinking if one goes a little deeper beyond the 1.5-2 pages that the bill contains. What I understand from it is that the government is planning to allow only government-owned companies. In other words, you have said that companies where the Articles of Association says that government will appoint the whole board of directors, the complete board of directors. That means a company controlled by only the central government can invest in nuclear projects. That also implies that you will be investing vast sums of taxpayers' money into production of energy through this source. India is an energy-starved country. We are very aware of that. And we are also aware that production of energy in a green manner is of prime importance. The sad part here is that you are going to invest this huge sums of money in a system wherein the developed world is moving away from that system, is moving away from production of atomic energy. We are moving into it. Even when the earlier UPA 1 and 2 governments were there, UPA 1 towards the end, their party, the BJP, was one of the biggest opponents of that Indo-US nuclear treaty, and we had also voted against it. It is interesting how fast, how swiftly people make volte-face when they come to power. This is the magic of the seat. It has nothing to do with ideologies. It has nothing to do with national good or any beliefs. It is that side versus this side. And we people with sense and sensibilities are left in the middle wondering what to do, because where goes the country, where do you go? Ma'am, the Western world, yes, we are consistent, absolutely, we are still consistent. The Western world has, like my predecessor, my earlier speaker, the Honorable MP from West Bengal spoke, the Western world is moving away from atomic energy. Germany, by the end of 2012, has already shut down 11 nuclear power plants. France, Germany, and even the US, which hasn't brought into effect any nuclear plant in the last 20 years, they're all stepping down from the production of nuclear energy. And therefore, we come into play because they want to hive off all their unused or underused or non-usable nuclear power plants on certain other countries, where India becomes the prime mover. And the major problem that all these countries face, which we are going to face in a short while, is the disposal of radioactive material. This industry in India is non-transparent, unaccountable, and it works under a veil of secrecy. Funnily, it works directly under the directions of the Prime Minister's office, and it stonewalls any public or parliamentary overwatch. And all this is done under the guise of national security, for which you do not even bring it under the gambit of the RTI Act. For example, the Kudankulam power plant in Tamil Nadu, in that case, when certain people moved for data, the Department of Atomic Energy refused to send basic information material such as site selection report and safety assessment reports, whereas these are publicly available in other countries. So it's actually not a national security issue, but you want to keep it stonewalled, you want to keep it under shrouds because you have doubts on your own ability. Safety regulation, as we know, ma'am, when it is government controlled, safety regulations are the first thing that go for a toss. The issue in India is that the nuclear regulator, the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, monitors the commission. But the interesting part is that the board is dependent on the commission for both its funds and for its manpower. So you can imagine the police being paid their salary by the robbers and the dacoits. What kind of policing they will do? Here, the situation is exactly like that. And this obviously undermines the board's authority. Since they are dependent on the same people, they are required to supervise. India has commissioned 6 European pressurized reactors to be established in the state of Maharashtra with the assistance of the French government. However, these archaic designs have come under scrutiny from the French regulators themselves in France. But we are going to implement them here, and our regulators are incapable of even understanding what is happening. The government hasn't thoroughly planned or trained the people on how to act during a crisis. Drills are conducted as a formality, and the public isn't educated on the threats of a nuclear crisis that could unfurl at any time. One of the most serious nuclear accidents in India was the one in Narora in Uttar Pradesh on 31 March 1993. It's a very simple incident, but a very interesting incident that highlights how things happen here. 2 blades of the turbine fan, it broke off because of fatigue. The proper maintenance was not being done. Through a chain of rapid events, this led to a major fire that engulfed the entire turbine building. Among the systems that got burnt in this fire were 4 cables, simply 4 cables. And these cables carried wires and electricity to the secondary cooling unit, which is very essential in case of the failure of the first cooling unit. And when the cables were burnt, obviously the second unit did not work. And then it was a huge accident, and the rest is known to all of us. Here, ma'am, I will read a little bit from a book called India's Risks by Raphael Moore and M.V. Rajiv Gowda. And the book talks about democratizing the management of threats to environment, health and values. A related and disturbing indication of the lacunae in India's risk management process is the frequent failure of safety devices. There are the mechanisms that seek to control the reactors under unanticipated circumstances. Therefore, if these do not work as expected, then it is more likely that a small event could cascade into a major accident. Here they narrate a very interesting story. Once in a while, the carelessness of the authorities come back to bite them, as it were. On one occasion in the mid-1960s, an underground tank at the Trombay reprocessing plant, which was used to store irradiated fuel rods, became severely contaminated. The water was pumped out into the sea, and a very high level of radiation built up close to the shore. What happened after that is best described by someone who was part of the DAE at that point. And this is quoting from that person. The next day, the canteen waiters of the plutonium plant, who usually use the shore for ablutions, were severely contaminated. Unaware of this, they served in the canteen and passed on the contamination to the technicians who carried it into the labs. Radiation monitors in the labs went haywire due to the very high levels of nuclear radiation they were exposed to. It was only after a great deal of effort that the problem was traced back to the plutonium plant. No, this is not an NGO. DAE is not an NGO. Thereafter, health physics safeguards inside, outside and around the plutonium plant were stepped up sharply. But Homi Setna, who succeeded Bhabha as chairman, oppose this continuously. As a result, one of the last office orders, what is this? One of the last office orders, first ABC chairman Homi Bhabha wrote to A.S. Rao, who was in charge of the Health and Safety Division in BARC, directing him to reassign a certain engineer from the plutonium plant, as the latter was being too tough about strict compliance. So, ma'am, this shows that even our officials are unwilling to take risks and are unwilling to take care of the basic safeguards. To sum up, the NDA government had planned a transparent process, but even now the sector comes under the shroud of secrecy. The NDA government had promised a higher cap on liability and non-dilution of supplier liability. However, this has been turned in the favor of the corporations by having a lower amount cap and a 5-year limited period liability. In September 2013, one of their senior ministers, Sri Arun Jaitley, in a statement on diluting nuclear suppliers' liability, had very clearly stated on record that civil liability for Nuclear Damages Act 2010, how the UPA-led government step would prove detrimental to the country in case of a nuclear disaster. So when their own ministers agree that giving over this sort of a thing to exclusively government-run agencies could be detrimental to the interests of the people of this country, I wonder why the government is going ahead with this small but very dangerous bill. Handing over the ownership and operations exclusively to government-controlled companies may help in keeping things under a shroud, but history tells us that government operators function in a fashion that behoves a normal department, which is, behaving like a tahsildar or a BDO or a collector. Whereas nuclear energy requires a kind of strict vigil which our government companies are incapable of. So I would suggest the government that they should take a rethink not only on this particular bill, but also on nuclear energy to be produced in this country in future. And we have to have a rethink on a national level and have a debate with experts and involve every quarter and rethink whether this is going to be good for India or it will be bad for India in a long run. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Sri Vinayak Raut.